12:03, so we'll call the Economic Development meeting to order. If the Executive Assistant will please call roll.
Black.
Here.
Pokrzywinski.
Here.
Wogaman.
Here.
Hecht.
Here.
Riopelle.
Here.
Grinde. Messelt.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum present. Start with approval of minutes from the September 19th regular meeting.
Move we approve the minutes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Bills and communications, review of accounts payable for October 3rd, 2017. If there's any questions on October 3rd. No questions on that. We don't need approval. We do need approval of accounts payable for October 17th, 2017. Moved by Tim. Any questions or a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Monthly financial reports.
Just a couple highlights is if you look at the new housing, the 280 fund, it's actually in the hole. So we need to keep selling lots, and that's kind of a timing thing too. And we did get reimbursed from the one house. I think we've been reimbursed from all the houses now, or do we still have the one left?
We have two houses that are still outstanding. One is supposed to have a closing middle of next month, and the other is just had a track going through that.
Okay, so it's just in the hole now until we get those sales and to reimburse for those loans. Everything else was about normal. The other thing, when we do that RFP for marketing, I know we had looked at, we'd have money in the professional service fund. Right now, there's a balance of $5,400 in there from what we budgeted, just to keep that in mind. Otherwise, nothing was out of the ordinary. Any questions?
No questions. We'll move on to reports. Our delinquency update.
There are no delinquencies.
Okay. Now we'll move on to unfinished business, the cutting edge loan.
I had informed Mr. Swenson with the Cutting Edge Loan of a proposed repayment plan. He countered, and the only thing that he changed on it was reduce the first adjusted repayment number to retain some of it, and he kept the second one so that if this is acceptable to you, we can set up a new amortization table. He will begin paying the accrued interest, the monthly accrued interest, beginning in November, and then in December 15th of 2019, he will increase that payment to $250 per month. That will pay past interest, and then go into principal payments, and then subsequent to that, he will increase the payment by, I think it's another $400. That will go into whatever remains on interest plus all the principal on that loan. I would recommend that we accept this proposal.
Questions from anybody?
Need a motion to approve that? I'll make that motion.
Okay, I'll second it. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Granted as recommended.
Thank you.
The drummer.
As you recall, the EDA sold lots to Drummer Holdings, LLC in 2013. Mr. Drummer unfortunately passed away, and that put the plans for what was going to happen on those lots on hold. I have been in touch with Mrs. Drummer because there is a statutory requirement that the lots be developed within a certain period of time. I have talked with her and her attorney. They have made a proposal. It's fine as far as it goes, but it's inadequate because it does not acknowledge the fact that there is a reverter. So what I have done and brought to you and would recommend is that, based upon Mr. Galsted's suggestion, that we make her sign that she acknowledges that there is a reverter, and that we give her until the end of 2018 to sell those lots and have something happening on the lots. Otherwise, we will have to reevaluate at that time and decide how we wish to proceed. And that was my recommendation to you.
I have one question on what is in the reverter as far as if this isn't met.
We are allowed to repurchase the lots at the price that they were originally sold.
Okay. As long as we weren't coming in and just taking it or anything, I had an issue with that.
No, it is set with a price, and it is the price that was the original transaction
Okay.
price.
And are her and her lawyer aware of your recommendation? And
Not yet.
Okay,
Not yet.
okay. If you get approval then
I
you can
will
bring it back to
transmit
her.
that to them, that these are what we agree to.
And if there's an objection or.
We'll
then
bring
they
it back.
Bring it back. I'll make the motion, we accept that.
I'll second.
Okay. Second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Our RFQ draft.
Included in your packet is a draft request for qualifications for the marketing plan. If you wish to have any changes, modifications, if this is acceptable, let me know, because we will cause it to be posted and sent out to local firms. Hopefully by the end of this week, all that will be done. Okay? The idea is to have monies from this year and from next year's budget, so we'll cross the budget years.
And that's why you have this timeline, is so it fits within the.
Absolutely.
That's kind of my only concern, is this enough time for all of the potential companies to put together a proposal?
Well, it's not a proposal, it's just a qualifications.
Okay.
They need to tell us basically why they are good to do this study.
Okay.
And to tell us their general approach, just their general approach.
Sort of an application for employment? Sure they
Sort of an
qualify.
application for employment, yes. A
there
proposal
is-
takes much longer and is much more detailed, and a lot of firms have stopped responding to RFPs, requests for a proposal, because of the cost involved in preparing them.
And there is an anticipated fee, so we have somewhat of an idea. I just, on page 2, there's just a typo there. The bottom column. EDS's vision or EDA's vision.
Oh, yep. Second line, that's.
Yep. Thank you.
Do you need approval on that?
Please.
As requested? Okay.
Please.
Do we have approval as it's drawn up now?
Well, with one revision.
With one revision.
Sorry.
Silence is deafening today.
Well, I've already made my share of motions.
Ready to get
Moved by Tim. Second by Daniel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. $5,000 housing incentive program.
I did not include anything in your packet on this program. We have discussed at some length, we need to make a recommendation to the city council on what we're actually going to do on this. And it's time to decide if we're going to continue as is, or if we're going to recommend that it be discontinued, or if it's going to be modified, or what is the answer. We've talked about a lot of different things, but we have not come to a conclusion. and I need your direction so we can move forward on this.
Have you talked to the banks on what their feeling is on it, or do they?
Have not talked to the banks, no. Has it achieved the goal that we wanted to achieve? If it has, it says to me, that would say we need to go forward. If it has not achieved that by increasing lot sales, then that also says that it's not doing the job for which it's designed, and that we need to think about doing this in a different way. We could also revisit this after we get recommendations from the marketing study, because included in there is a way to address what has to be done for housing. So we could defer this until that study is done and leave it as is in the status quo for the time being.
You do know what the realtor's opinion is.
Yes, we
They were
heard.
clear on theirs.
I guess, to me, there's not enough information out there to make a decision one way or the other at this point. I wouldn't mind seeing what the marketing thing has to say, but I mean, my feel is it shouldn't cost money to do this. I mean, we should get all the money back. And I said it last time too, shouldn't be any forgiveness on this thing, low interest loan on that. I think is the way to go, but we need to get all the money back in one piece. We don't need to be running negative on it. I don't think, we're not selling enough lots to really warrant that, hey, there's this big tax base that should be coming back into us to cover this kind of stuff. It's just not, we need to go a different direction, but at this point, I don't know what that direction is without having more information.
I would remind you that this is a program that is citywide. It does not just apply to city-owned lots. It also applies for all the lots that are owned and developed by other developers in town. So, and there is no revenue source for the city for those lots. It requires a transfer out of the general fund. As I said, we can defer this until we get the marketing information back, specifically with regard to its impact upon our city-owned lots. And that can perhaps guide us, or we can decide what we want to do, because, like I said, it applies to every new home in town, not just those on city-owned lots.
We deferred it, would that leave the existing program in place?
Yes.
And so we would continue to fund this until we made the decision. Because we had decided to end it, right?
Tentatively decided to end it, but remember, that's a council decision.
Right.
That was a recommendation, and it was discussed at council and came back to here for further discussion. So the council has not taken any action, and the council may decide to fund or not fund the program in next year's budget.
I would like to revert to our council representatives to find out, have you guys had much discussion on it at a council level of how the council as a whole feels about it?
No, I haven't really gotten the sense of,
Any direction on it
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay, and the only reason I ask it is because I don't want us to sit here and waste time trying to figure out, do this, do that, do this, and it's gonna go to the council anyways, and then, I mean, it's purely a recommendation, I get that, but if there's a certain feeling at council level, I was curious to know what it might be.
my position, and I still feel this way, is I don't think we should be subsidizing very large, expensive homes. I think there is merit in providing assistance to people and builders that are willing to build modest homes for a moderate price. But I'm not everyone thinks that way in this room, especially that you know, we haven't settled on a number that is moderate or modest for, you know, large or expensive. I guess I don't like the idea of having someone living in a 1,700 square foot home that's lived there a long time, having them subsidize some of this building, a $450,000 to $500,000 home, with, 4,000 or 5,000 square feet home. And that's what the existing program does. It doesn't say anything about what size home you're building. And so I don't like the existing program. I wish there was a way we could encourage or
You can modify it.
incentivize people building those homes that fit into the maybe not starter homes, but below, median to lower priced homes. So,
If I may, first, my sense from listening to the council discussion is they wanted to hear a full recommendation from this board, and they would probably go along with the recommendation of whatever it was. That's my sense of it. That may not prove accurate ultimately, but that was my sense of the discussion we had that day. Second, the Polk County Affordable Housing Group actually has a program that parallels our down payment assistance program, but it's available for both new and existing housing. The limits are $220,000 for a home and $89,000 for income. So there is a program that people have access to living in East Grand Forks if they can find even a new home at that price.
do they go to your office to apply for that?
Actually, I would direct them to the housing office, and Lee Meyer staffs that office, has a couple of people who address that program.
Okay. Do you have information
I have
regarding
information
that
on
program
that.
that you can give people if they come to
Yes.
your office? Okay.
Absolutely, and I have access to more information.
Then that, to me, if we have that program available to people right here, then I don't think we need this other one.
It's just a
That's mine.
duplication on it, is it what this would be if they've already got one in place?
And it's an additional cost.
Yep. Because I do agree with the realtors that $5,000 does not push people to one side of the room. I think it does.
I also think that when we're trying to gauge how effective that is, it's very tough, but I have spoke to a few realtors myself and asked them if they know what the incentives are in East Grand Forks, if they have a customer that's to build a new lot, or to build a new house on a lot and buy a lot, or to buy a newly built home. And a few that I had talked to didn't know any of our incentives that were available. And that doesn't speak for the realtor community as a whole by any means, but I would also say that it's tough to gauge how effective anything is if there's realtors out there that are selling and they don't even know that we have 3 or 4 different programs that give money back.
That might be one realtor I don't want to deal with then.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
I think you could say 80% of the realtors in that board of realtors avoid East Grand Forks.
Yeah. Well, to me, they're not serving their customers if they don't know that.
Correct, and like I said, and I just asked a few that I had been around that work in town after we had our discussions, just to find out, do they really know that, hey, if you buy that house, did you know that there's another $5,000 incentive that the city would give you? Or, if you buy that lot that you would get this? I wonder how much people are even being told that in the first place. So without that information, even if we had some of it, it would still be tough to gauge how effective this program actually is. But just from asking a few and them saying that, no, I don't know what the incentives are, it just tells me that, 1, they don't care, or 2, the information hasn't gotten out there enough to them.
Well, it's been out there for 20 years. It just went from 10 to 5.
Right.
It's not a new program.
Yeah, and
No.
keep in mind that, the council does not have any money in their budget to do this. And, we're looking at probably, a 5% tax increase probably for the property taxpayer, and some of the council still want to be able to cut that down. So it's not in the budget for next year at all.
Now, when we're talking about this, but we're talking about 2 different programs also, because didn't we talk about getting rid of the 5,000, but then changing our The one that
Down
mirrors
payment
the down
assistance?
payment assistance?
That comes from a different fund, it's repaid, and the council agreed to that change. And the council also agreed to the property, extension of the property tax rebate program.
So we'll be keeping our down payment assistance program?
Yes, but that is only for existing homes, it is not for new homes.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, no, because when we were talking about repaying things, that was a complete separate program.
Correct. It's a separate program and a different funding source.
And I don't know how everybody else feels, but I think the recommendation we came up last time then, that the program completely ends at the end of 2018, I think would work.
I thought that was for only homes that were lots that were purchased before 12/31, right?
There has to be a closing on the land before the
End of this year.
31st, on or before December 31st of this year, and then the home has to have a certificate of occupancy on or before the end of next year.
We just want to make sure that's in there. 'cause
There has to be
otherwise
the
it sounds like the
transaction
program's
so that there
continuing.
is a house being built that basically would qualify for the program today. So positive actions have to be taken.
And then we would know how much it would, we'd be looking at needing next year.
If a house doesn't get built next year, you're doing an upset number. It should not exceed this number.
Correct.
Yeah. We would know based on what our lot sales are for this year, of what we potentially
What we
need
could
for next
potentially
year.
need for next year. I like that idea.
So,
We need a motion on that? Send it to council.
well, my question is, do you want to stand by the old recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, then I don't think you need any more motion. You've discussed it. You're going to use the old motion. Okay.
Okay, moving on to director's report.
I just gave you the update on those during our previous discussion. Okay? And it's a DPA, not a PDA.
Okay.
Had me going on that one. That's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. It's
Okay.
PDA, never seen it.
All right.
Okay, moving on to new business, Palmsino request regarding Demers Professional Building.
We sold the Sweet Clover Building to Tony Palmsino under contract for deed. We had to do certain things. I've been working with our city attorney to make sure that our things were done. And he's done a marvelous job of making sure that we met all the needs. Mr. Palmsino thinks that we should pay his legal expenses for that transfer, and his legal expenses a total of $742.50. I will tell you that Mr. Gallstead's billings to date on Sweet Clover are $937.50.
Was there title insurance on that? We did not provide title insurance?
No, actually, we sold this on a contract for deed with a limited warranty deed, and the limited warranty deed essentially goes from the date that we acquired it forward, and we didn't cloud the title from the date forward. The legal fees that were announced by Mr. Gordy that I provided, I did do a title examination on it. I provided in the couple of, most of the bill that I saw was for conferences that I had with Mr. Neal. And I provided all the information that I had to Mr. Neal to, if he wants to say there had to be a clear title, to clear title from before we actually bought it. There was a how do I want to say it? When he says it was complicated, it was a little bit complicated, because what ultimately happened was the Sweet Clover building was owned as a personal property. The land underneath it was owned by the railroad. And so then when the EDA received that land, or the city received that land, we received the land from the railroad, but but the building was owned by a separate individual. The city had to, for lack of a better description, had to comply with the lease agreement that was in place, and the landowner was required to pay us rent as well as property taxes, etc. What ultimately happened was I believe it was the Rose LLC or something on that line, ended up getting there was a foreclosure action by the bank that was going to take the building, and the EDA and the city essentially worked out a deal with U.S. Bank, I believe it was, and we ended up with the property, but we did pay off the underlying debt that was going to be foreclosed upon. I think at the same time, the city did have, through the EDA, did have a loan out with the Rose Group as well. And so when that whole transaction went down, the city, that's when the EDA ultimately got both the title to the building and the title to the land combined. All of that was done primarily prior to the contract for deed, and there was nothing that we did from the contract for deed going forward that clouded title. So I'm not, it's a policy decision. I'm just not certain the city's responsible for it, because essentially what you're doing is you're paying for my conference with Mr. Neal. Paying me and paying Mr. Neal, and then I did provide Mr. Neal with all of my documentation that I obtained when I did the title examination that I charged the city $300 to do.
Mr. Gulstead did an excellent job trying to make sure all of these things are understandable and clear. And in my opinion, my recommendation to this board is that each party pay their own expenses, and that we do not honor the request from Mr. Palmasino to pay for his legal fees in this matter. You've already approved Mr. Gulstead's legal fees. You did that earlier in this meeting, in fact.
We'll pay his as long as he pays ours.
But the only thing that I was going to say about all of that was it was a little bit complicated, but that wasn't our fault. And I know that it seemed like there was some type of a letter that indicated he believed that he needed to get somebody involved because it was a complex issue and it needed to be done promptly. The contract for deed didn't provide for us to do that. It was not our responsibility to go out and do anything other than what we did do. So I, through Mr. Gordy, were waiting on I guess it would be Mr. Palmasino or his attorney. So I'm not sure where the communication went there, but I just know that we were under no obligation at the time other than I needed to draft a limited warranty deed, which I had already done, and was just waiting on the buyer's side to find out when and how they wanted it to be recorded.
Question, so then when he's saying that it was a bit complex and everyone was busy, everyone wasn't us, wasn't the city that was. That's something on his side?
Well, I'm not sure what he's referring to, but all I know is that it was the underlying transaction was a complex transaction when the city or the EDA obtained that land. The contract for deed was very straightforward and simple. We are transferring to you this property for $75,000. You pay it off over time. When you pay it off, we're giving you a limited warranty deed. And that limited warranty deed essentially says that we are transferring to you this property. It's similar to a quitclaim deed, but a limited warranty deed is essentially a quitclaim deed going forward that says we have not clouded the title since we acquired it. It doesn't insure or warrant previously acquired title. And the reason I did a limited warranty deed was because of that reason, because there was a lot of issues that were being dealt with when we, as the EDA, acquired that property back in, I don't have my file with me, but when we acquired that property.
We need a motion on this.
I can make a motion. A motion to deny the request for reimbursement.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Let me point out also, every time we were contacted, I contacted Mr. Gallstetter, he contacted me, we got the answers back day 2. We acted promptly to take care of all the information, and it would drag on, but we tried to be very extremely responsive on this, knowing that it was in their best interest to get the title, in our best interest to get the title to them.
And I will say one more thing. The only thing that was a little bit of a delay, and I'm not sure exactly what happened, is I provided the limited warranty deed to the EDA. It was left for me after it was executed, supposedly in the mailbox in the city council or in the city administrator's office. I never did see the original. So ultimately, instead of having it recorded, I had to send back a new original limited warranty deed for Justin and Paul to sign. But that, in and of itself, didn't do anything other than transfer the property. It had nothing to do with the previous title.
Which we both signed on the day that we got the deed, both times.
It sounds like we acted in good faith and did everything we could to get it done, so.
Tried to.
Tried.
Okay, moving on to the Hanksleben extension request.
Heather Hanksleben has contracted to purchase Lot 14 in Water's Edge, Block 2. It's one of the lots that fronts 23rd. She asked for an extension on that until, I think it's March 1st of next year, and she offered to pay an additional $1,000 to secure that extension. Remember, we had dealt with this before, and we said $1,500 for a full-year extension. She's offering for a 6-month extension, $1,000. I recommend that we accept this. I have talked with her at length about the $5,000 program, that she may have to close by the end of the year in order to take advantage of that. So she is aware that there may be changes transpiring on that $5,000 incentive. We need a recommendation.
I move we accept that recommendation.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, second by Daniel, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I want to touch on one thing real quick on that $5,000 incentive. If we have a contractor that put money down for a lot, do they have to close on that lot in order for the incentive to be available for that lot? If a home is built next year?
Are you asking those that were trying to take advantage of the builder incentives, or are you talking about somebody who's just putting money down on the lot?
Well, a builder that would be putting money down on a lot.
I talked with them about it. We do have the builder's incentive, though, where we can carry a lot and transfer it for the $1,000 so that we can get people building lots.
Okay.
So if title is transferred, the way I understand the criteria you've given me, if title is transferred, they would be eligible for that. If title is not transferred, and unless title is transferred, they can't begin the house anyway.
Okay.
Then if title is not transferred, then no, they would not be eligible under the criteria that you had given.
Okay. Just
That-
came to mind when you just mentioned about speaking with her on that incentive.
Any questions on that?
I have a question. Are we doing the building incentive? Are we doing the building incentive next year?
It's in there. It's in the budget that I presented, and unless the council takes it out, it's still available. But we have two different programs. One is a $100,000 incentive. The other is when we don't have money available in there, we will carry a lot for $1,000 down, and they can pay. The builder buys a lot, they can pay for it at the time they close, and we've had that happen already, where they will pay at the time of closing for all the land, the money that they would normally have paid up front, but did not pay up front.
No, and I mean that 100,000.
It's in the budget,
The three?
yes.
Okay, because, we might have to look at that also.
And I suppose that's largely going to depend on if the other ones sell that we have done.
That too, and we also have to pay the tax rebates out of this fund. So if we just have to, Paul and I can look at that.
Okay. Moving on to the home show.
Home show dates. The home show dates for next year are March 23, 24, and 25. It's 4 to 8 p.m., if I remember correctly, on the 23rd, the Friday. It is 10 to 6 on Saturday, and it is 11 to 5 on Sunday. Mark your calendars so that you can volunteer to participate. I will also be talking with the other departments. Remember last year, Mike Hedlund from the police department participated, and in addition, Gary Larson, the fire chief, stopped by and said that he might be interested in participating this year as well. So we can do it a little bit more broadly based. This is a shared activity with water and light. So I just want you to start thinking about the calendar and being available at some point during those days. And for those who work on Saturday, let me know because dinner's available on Saturday. They provide dinner, the Forks provides dinner that Saturday.
And moving on to the logo.
What?
You're frowning.
Oh, no, I'm not frowning. I'm just thinking, so, what I have going on. So, usually I do the mornings.
I know. You and Mike in particular have stopped by, and Ralph, you've stopped by. I know you, in the past, you've stopped by the booth, and your help has always been appreciated.
Yeah, I'll do 2 to 6 on Saturday, that's usually what I do.
Okay. Moving on to the logo.
I agree.
The one that shows
No,
the East
if I say I sit on the EDA board, people are like, what is that?
Yeah.
So nobody knows what it is. I think we need to spell it out below it. That's a great idea to me.
Somebody was just doodling last year and gave it to me that way, and I just got to thinking about it because when I was doing, I thought about it when I was doing the RFQ. Just putting EDA is not going to make a bit of sense to somebody who's not local. I mean, for us, it differentiates from EDC over in Grand Forks, but there are a lot of EDAs. I mean, they're almost a dime a dozen. Whereas if we put who we are, the city on there, it makes a big difference.
We could add color to it too if you wanted.
We certainly could.
Color black?
Yeah, let's
Colored
do
in black?
Yeah, black, Daniel Black.
I mean, this gets us started, and when we go through the marketing, when they see this, we can talk about if it should be presented in some other form of color or whatever.
We got the motion.
I'll make a
Second
motion to
already.
use this, so.
Second.
Okay. Second by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's all I have for today. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Well, the only thing I was going to say is on Thursday, NCTC is having their State of the College address over at the community college. And I'm not sure if anybody's attending or not, but it's usually during,
It's at 11:30.
yeah, lunch hour, 11:30 to 1:30, and it's during MEA weekend, so the college is out of session, so just thought I'd let everybody know.
And if you're interested, let me know or let Megan know. Megan was the one who was making arrangements for the city table. And I don't know.
Actually, she's already done, it's not, there
Yeah.
isn't a.
I don't know if there are any.
There's not a
cases
table,
left.
there wasn't 8, there was only like 6, so.
Henry going? So we
I
need a
do.
motion to adjourn.
Tim moved on that, you're seconding
I'll
it?
second it then.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Meeting adjourned.
I didn't
Thank
know
you
if
all.
you heard Tim.